Welcome back everyone, and once again it's time to go balls deep. And boy oh boy, this video is going to blow your minds as I'm finally going to cover and explain the theory on what the inherited will and the will of D is in One Piece, and who is Joyboy and what is his prophecy. It's showtime! This video is actually a part 2 to the End of One Piece series I started, where I cover a sequence of theories and possible direction which Oda might take to end this magnificent story. Me and Ardell have also started doing streams regularly on Twitch, where I am also reacting to the latest One Piece chapters, so make sure to go to twitch.tv/animeballsdeep to stay in tune. Without making things too long, I also wanted to add that we appreciate all of you guys and can see the love and support towards the ABD squad. It's feeding us all of this good old energy we need, along with smashing that like button and getting to the end of this video, which lets me know that you guys want more One Piece content. So right off the bat, before I even go into explaining the will of D, the big giant straw hat that is being preserved in a freezing storeroom under Marijoa, Luffy's relationship with Joyboy, before I explain any of that, I do need to remind you guys that you will need to know the theory and prerequisite of what One Piece could be. I covered it not too long ago in the part 1 to this series, The End of One Piece Explained, so if you guys want to be up to date with everyone in the community, then make sure to check that video out. But either way, I'll do a brief summary to refresh your memories. In that video, I explained the theory on how One Piece is actually a promise to unify the 4 seas, the North Blue, East Blue, South Blue and the West Blue, alongside the Grand Line, which is technically a separate sea enclosed by the Calm Belt. The Grand Line is also divided into 2 parts by the large continent known as the Red Line. The first half of the Grand Line, which is located between East and South Blue, is known by those who have travelled to the second half as Paradise. The second half is known as the New World. Either way, everything is divided by the Red Line and the Grand Line as they intersect the world, causing this split. The One Piece project was to calm the crazy weather in the sea, control the Sea Kings inhabiting the Calm Belts, and destroy the Red Line, or a certain point on it, which we concluded in the last video to be the Holy Land of Marijoa. By doing all of this, these seas will be completed into one piece, forming all blue. This would be the true freedom for all people, where different races and species can live together and travel across nations with no problem and in harmony. So with that, I hope you guys got the drift of what the One Piece promise was. Now this promise was made to the people of the world by Joyboy and the ancient kingdom around the Void Century 800 to 900 years ago. However, this promise could not be fulfilled due to a massive war that took place between the ancient kingdom and those who opposed them, who at that time was said to be 20 different allied kingdoms. These allied kingdoms won the battle and henceforth dictated history, along with becoming the foundation for the current world government. It's also indicated that people of the Fishman Island, who are directly under the Holy Land, were also promised to be moved to the surface where they can feel the sun, as a pact was made by Joyboy and Poseidon, who we can assume was the queen of the fish people during the Void Century. The pact that was made between the two was to use Poseidon's power to control the Sea Kings to raise the giant ship Noah to the surface. It's likely that this ship was meant to carry all fish people to the surface. However, after breaking the terms of the agreement, Joyboy was forced to leave Noah for another person to raise. The people of Fishman Island promised Joyboy that they would keep Noah safe on the ocean floor until a certain day arrived. Oh, and guys, just to clarify, Noah's exact mission is actually unknown and will only be revealed the day it is raised. Some speculate that Noah could be the foundation to the ancient weapon Pluton, or it could be just a big ass ship to move the different races of the world to one spot, creating a utopia. I'm just getting that from its name, like it's inspired from Noah's Ark. Noah was a prophet who built a massive ship to save the different species of animals from the Great Flood. So the mission of the ship could more or less be similar in spirit to this story. But coming back to the One Piece project, in chapter 987, in the flashback when Roger and his crew reached the final island that was directed by the road Poneglyph, Odin reported in his journal that on that day they learned the entire truth of the world, referencing the 100-year Void Century, who the people of D are, and what the ancient weapon is. Odin pretty much confirmed that Laugh Tale is connected back to Joyboy and the Ancient Kingdom. Okay, with all of that summarized, I hope you guys know what the One Piece project is. If you want that in more in detail, you know what to do. Go back to my previous video. But with all that said, let's finally go into everything we know about Joyboy. We first heard the name when Robin read the Ryugu Poneglyph while at the Sea Forest. Later we came to know that this person made a promise with the residents of the Fishman Island 900 years ago. However, in chapter 818, it was established that the poneglyphs were created by the Kozuki clan 800 years ago. This infers that Joyboy must have been at least 100 years of age if he himself wrote the letter on the Ryugu poneglyph. This also indicates that Joyboy had a companion that was from the Kozuki clan who had access to these poneglyphs. But this is kind of obvious though, considering the use of the road poneglyphs to reach the final island. Now, from Goldie Roger's statement from Odin's flashback, the final island had not been visited for around 800 years, and Roger stated that he wished he was born in Joyboy's time, and that Joyboy left a very unique and an amazing treasure, a tale full of laughs. Now, this could mean that the information that was left at Laugh Tale was not only the story of the Void Century, the ancient weapons, but it was also Joyboy's final testament, including his life journey, which possibly showcased how ridiculous of a man Joyboy was, along with the idea that the One Piece project being incredible and the final testament of a prophecy that would shake the world. All of this was so crazy and amazing to the point of laughing. This kinda does also parallel back to Luffy's story, as his story is kind of a comedic journey. Now, before I continue, let's go over a possible inspiration to Joyboy's character which might help us understand his position and role in One Piece better. Joyboy could be based off the Javanese king Joyoboyo, or more commonly known as Jayabaya. King Joyoboyo, or Jayabaya, however you like to call him, is attributed to reunifying the kingdom of Kidiri after its split with a successful and just rule. Aside from that, Joyoboyo was also known for his prophecies and oracles, such that was written in his book, the Prelambang Joyoboyo. He prophesied the occupation of the Japanese in his book in the form of an epic poem. It stated that the Japanese would be ruled by the whites for 3 centuries and by the yellow dwarves for the life cycle of a maize plant prior to the return of the just king, with the whites referring to the Dutch and the yellow dwarves referring to the Japanese. Yeah man, I didn't make this shit up myself, okay? That's what's actually written in the man's poem, so don't come at me, SJWs. Seriously, that was all about love, peace and positivity. Anyway guys, moving on. The Japanese came to liberate the Indonesians nationalists from the Dutch forces, which were seen as the oppressors, making the Japanese in a way the liberators of Indonesia. Although in the progressing days of 1944, it was obvious that the Japanese forces was not going to be able to win the war, so the Japanese officially handed over its authority to Indonesia to become an independent nation, giving them freedom as foretold in the prophecy of King Joyoboyo. As one account of Indonesian history puts it, with the minor exception that 3 crops had been harvested, Jayabaya's prophecy had been realized. Damn, shit man, this guy was a prophet or something. But anyways, this actually goes back to the One Piece series. I'm gonna be putting all the dots together, so pay attention. Joyboy could be the just king of the ancient kingdom, similar to how Joyoboyo was to his kingdom. And like Joyoboyo's mission, Joyboy intended to unify his kingdom, which consisted of all races and species. Joyboy also left a prophecy, like his real life counterpart, on how to unify the world and the future just king. In some ways in the One Piece universe, the Dutch are the nobles and the world government, and Wano could be the Japanese who liberated Indonesia, but Wano in the One Piece series will help liberate the whole world. Luffy would possibly be the next just king. Just like Joyoboyo's prophecy, he also foretold another just king to rule. Joyboy's prophecy of Luffy being the pirate king and the mediator of justice for all people might have been written in a poem left at Laugh Tale. Obviously this poem wouldn't actually mention Luffy by name, but it would indicate such a man to rise. Now if we do consider all of this to be true and Joyboy to be the supposed ruler or representative of the ancient kingdom, then the following would make sense. In chapter 986, page 4 to 5, Roger recalls his conversation he overheard between the Sea Kings, where they stated, "The birthing is at hand, our sovereign will soon be born, and another in a distant sea. The whales are delighted in anticipation of the day the 2 sovereigns shall meet again. We have been waiting for so long, it is almost here and sure surely all will go well this time. Just 10 until birth and another 15 to grow. Now, now I don't know why I made the Sea King sound so slow, but I did quite big, you know, I don't know, I'm sorry guys. But the key point here is the bit where the Sea King stated, "Of the day the two sovereigns shall meet again." I don't know, I'm taking a piss now. But it's clear that they are referring to Joyboy's meeting with Poseidon. But the use of the term sovereign hold importance. We know Poseidon was the queen of the fish people, giving sovereignty, but this also would mean that Joyboy was the ruler of his people, which also means he has sovereignty. Now the second point also indicates that some sort of reunion will happen between these two to complete the pact they made. Obviously they're dead now, so this is referring to the future in a form of reincarnation or the inheritance of will. In page 7 of chapter 968, Odin states there was a purpose to Wano being closed, but now we must open its port before the day that Joyboy appears. Odin, coming from Laugh Tale, knew everything that was to come, including the future prophecy aforementioned, but it's important that Wano's borders has to be open for the final prophecy of One Piece coming into existence, reinforcing the involvement of Wano liberating the world in some ways. Now a few other speculations we can have of Joyboy, apart from the inclination that his will or spirit will be reincarnated in Luffy in some sort of way. It's possible that Joyboy wasn't human like everyone else. What I mean by this is that this dude might have been a giant. Now at this current stage, this is just a crazy theory based on the fact that the poneglyphs are actually quite massive. Joyboy also having a relatively large lifespan, along with the possibility of the straw hat Roger had being an inspiration from the ancients, more so of Joyboy. And to top everything off, the fact that there is a gigantic straw hat under Marijoa which is being preserved with ice, giving me the impression that this hat is centuries old. I want to deep dive into this theory in another video. If you guys want me to do that, then you know what to do. Smash that like button and let me know in the comment section below. Alright guys, let's move on to the will of D. Yes, the big D. The biggest mysterious D in all of anime. This D is so epic, they have to pixelate this shit. Oh wait, listen guys, get your mind off the gutter. Bruh. Seriously though, let's start with where does the D initial come from? We know from the time Whitebeard and Roger were having a drink together in chapter 576 that it's this story from a long time ago, as said in Roger's words. We can say that the long time ago in this sentence refers back to 800 years ago, to the time of the ancient kingdom and the void century, as it is the only significant portion of the history we are fixated on in this series other than Roger's time. Furthermore, in the same chapter, Whitebeard also talks about Roger's will and how Teach, we're talking about Blackbeard here if you don't know, his name is Marshall D. Teach, where he also holds the D initial. But Whitebeard says that Teach is not the man Roger was looking for. But with everything I said earlier, we know that Roger's will of D is not the will of Roger, or rather, it is the will passed down from a story long time ago. And the story from long time ago is from the ancient kingdom and Joyboy. Even the wording of this in the manga, Whitebeard says, "It has been passed down like that since ancient times." I'm honestly just sullying Whitebeard because he sounds so epic. But anyways, this has been passed down and inherited for centuries on. As Whitebeard says, "You can sever bloodlines, but their flames will never be extinguished." This relates back to how we see the D initial present in people all over the world, and even in a giant like Jaguar D Soul. Roger himself tells us the invincible nature of a will, how one's dreams lives on even in death. In the chapter 100, Roger said, "These are things that cannot be stopped, an inherited will. One dream, the flow of time. As long as people continue to pursue the meaning of freedom, these things will never cease to be." The concept of inheritance of will is throughout the story, not just with people who have the D in their name. If you look at Hirolock Sakura, he had an impossible goal. He wanted to create a panacea which could cure all diseases or illness. However, he kept failing for 30 years. Finally, his Sakura bloomed, but it wasn't a fully fledged flower. But Hirolock's dream is not dead, even though he is deceased. He lives on in 2020 Choppa, who wants to create this cure for all drugs. This will inheritance is not limited to this one instance, as we can see a similar dynamic with Zeph and Sanji's All Blue, Zoro and Kuina, Law and Corazon, and the list goes on. If someone's will is an immortal dream which could be caught and delivered by another, is it too far-fetched to think that Roger's will is the will of the ancient kingdom Kingdom and Joyboy which survived all of these years. It doesn't seem like a long stretch to presume that the D name has survived for 800 years. Moving on, let's talk about the ancient kingdom from which the will of D actually descends from. This kingdom was a powerhouse. It took 20 different allied kingdoms to come together in order to defeat it. We know that the celestial dragons are the direct descendants of these royalties from the 20 kingdoms of the past. Well, I guess 19, since the Nefertaris were amongst the 20 allied kingdoms but decided not to go to Marijoa. But the reason all of these kingdoms most likely fought against the Great Kingdom is probably because it was a threat to them. And I'm not just talking about military might. I'm talking about culture and the difference in morality. We can see this with the celestial dragons, that even slavery is tolerated by them and the world government also looks the other way for it. With that, and using balls deep prediction hockey, I predict that the 20 kingdoms were human kingdoms where other races to them were treated like slaves or second-class citizens. We can even see this with the current noble attitudes to the other species, enslaving what they find different or interesting. But on the other hand, the Great Kingdom had a society built around harmony between all races. And as the people of the Great Kingdom would go around trading, delivering their big sake of freedom and ideas of this utopia to other kingdoms, the rulers would be scared of these ideas of freedom, just like we see in our world, where even China has a great firewall which regulates all information that goes into the country. Or what about North Korea, where they are also so scared to let their public know about the outside world because if they did, they would probably rebel. A similar thing can be applied to the One Piece world. The ancient kingdom wanted to unite all races and seas, but they had a giant obstacle in their way, which was the Red Line and the Grand Line. And as I said earlier, if you want to know more about the geography of the globe and how the sea works, you should check out my last One Piece theory video, which I will link in the pinned comment section below. To destroy the Red Line and open up the world, there are only 3 weapons that can do that, and those are the 3 ancient weapons. With the 3 ancient weapons, the ancient kingdom realized the One Piece project. The idea of the weapons and the One Piece project was a threat to all of the other kingdoms, so they banded together and destroyed this ancient kingdom along with any evidence of them. And that's why the world government tries so hard to erase all evidence of this free kingdom, because freedom negates authority over a person and the world government wants to control the entire world. The idea of harmony between the races and opening of the sea is the One Piece. This all connects back to what I said in the last video about All Blue. The merging of the seas means the clashing of culture and races. It means that the world is whole. It is one piece, and the will of D is there to preserve the idea and dream of this ideal world. When Roger found out the truth about this, after reaching Laugh Tale, he knew he wasn't the one to realize this dream since he was dying. He created the Great Pirate Era and told the world to find the One Piece, which was his treasure inherited from Joyboy and the ancient kingdom. It's very possible that the D initial was given by Joyboy to his companions that followed him in his mission, and from them and their descendants they carried on the will of D. From Trafalgar Law to Dragon, Garp, Luffy, even Blackbeard, they could have been the descendants of Joyboy and his companions, who once took on the pledge of achieving true freedom. That is truly the will of D. With that, I'm going to conclude this video. That's my take and thoughts on Joyboy, the will of D and the ancient kingdoms. I have many more theories like this, expanding on the ancient weapons, like what is Uranus and how does Wano and Toki fit in all of this, along with expanding on the One Piece history and universe, with the potential for the races and species being from different planets. Yeah, I said that, mate, they're all aliens, but I'm not going to talk about that theory in this video. Make sure to hit that notification bell to keep up to date with our videos and content, and smash that like button to show your support so I can continue banging out the One Piece content. With that, guys, I'll see you till next time. Peace.